Salvation has no respect for your so-called wisdom. Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? Now we understand that there is the wisdom of this world, and the wisdom of this world cannot understand the wisdom of God. So when you operate in the wisdom of this world, you may be seen as smart person, wise person, intelligent person. But when it comes to the wisdom of God, you are a foolish man, because the wisdom above all wisdom is the wisdom of God. And if in your wisdom, the wisdom of God is foolishness to you, where is your wisdom? God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. That is the key. Salvation is for those who believe. Salvation has no respect for your so-called wisdom if you can't believe. Salvation has no respect for your intelligence if you can't believe. Salvation has no respect for your political stance if you can't believe. Salvation has no respect for your position, your whatever, if you can't believe. In the foolishness of the preaching, it has pleased God to save those who believe it. But remember, we have already established that this message is not foolishness, yet it is foolishness to some people, and those people are the ones who are perishing. But to us, it is the power of God. So until the cross of Jesus, until the death, the burial, the resurrection, the ascension, the coming back of Christ, until that become the power of God, until you see it as the power of God, you are far from salvation, because you can't believe. Verse 22. Jews demand signs, and Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. Now, this is very, very instructive. Jews demand signs, Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. Their demand does not define our supply. The world's demand does not demand our supply. We supply Christ crucified. Those who demand wisdom, those who demand signs, we supply Christ crucified. Today, churches are filled. Some churches are filled, let me put it that way, because of the supply. And the supply is not Christ crucified. It is science, it is wisdom, it is philosophy. May God have mercy. There is a demand the world has, but we have one supply, Christ crucified. That is what we sell. That is our business. If God has called you, if Jesus has called you into a ministry, whether you are in the prophetic, you are in the evangelism or evangelistic ministry, whether you are in the apostolic call, whether you are a pastor, a teacher, whoever you are, we give Christ crucified. Apostle Paul, talking about the apostolic mandate, he says, we preach. We don't make comedy of Christ crucified. We preach Christ crucified. We don't monetize Christ crucified. We preach Christ crucified. But we preach Christ crucified. A stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. So we see three people who come to Jesus. And in their coming to Jesus, There is only one category of people who receive from Jesus, because that is the business of Jesus. There are people who come for sign, the supernatural seekers, the miracle seekers. They come. There are those who come for wisdom. They are those who reason, philosophers. They want to reason everything out. It must make sense scientifically, politically, socially, whatever again. They use their brains, they use their head, reason. They must be able to reason it out. It must make logical sense. Some of the things we want to make sense out of them, we end up making no sense. And so we walk as foolish people because we are not able to logically extract any conclusion that appeal to the senses in the affairs of man. So once it is not making sense to our senses, which in the sight of God is no sense at all, it is nonsense. Some come for signs. They are the supernatural. Miracle, miracle, miracle. We see them in our churches. We see them at crusade grounds. You go for missions, you see them, they come. All that they want is healing. And they go. When they find it, when they get it, they are gone. Miracle seekers. And then we have those who seek wisdom, ideas. You must be able to share ideas with us. We are not business entities. So if your congregation says, you must teach us business principles. What do you have? What are you ordained for? The question is, what are you called to do? If you have a profession that you can use to help people, fine. But your call is to supply the Christ crucified. Even when people demand signs, give them Christ crucified. When people demand wisdom, give them Christ crucified. Because Christ is the wisdom of God. You can't find Christ, have fellowship with him, dine with him, and be foolish. No, you can't. A stumbling block to Jews and a foolishness to Gentiles, because they are not able to make sense out of it. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. So the supernatural people want to see power, but Christ is the power. You see that? The philosophers want wisdom, but Christ is the wisdom of God. So what you are seeking for is found in the man you are rejecting. And what he has is superior, much more superior, far more superior than what you have and what you seek. So those who seek for power, give them Christ, and in Christ they will find power. Those who seek wisdom, give them Christ crucified, and in him they will find wisdom. And that is the wisdom of God. Because of the demand today, we have people who don't know Christ, but have certain strange powers they are operating with. Because people want to see power. Give us sign, show us miracles, supply Christ. Christ is enough for this world. Christ is enough for this world. Because if you come to Christ, there you will realize that the wisdom you sought for, in fact, he is. The signs, the miracles, the supernatural you were looking for. When you find Christ, you will realize that he is the embodiment, the completeness of whatever you sought for.